Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Tired. How are you?
Not tired at the moment. Did you have a busy weekend?
Not really.
Okay. Working?
No.
No. Oh, good. So you had some time off.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good, good. Thank you for starting the meeting.
Yeah.
I asked if she could send the presentation, but I don't see it
Yeah, I
anywhere.
saw
So
she didn't send it, so it's okay. She should be fine.
she should be fine. Worst case, she's got our email, so she can always just email it quick and one of us can hold it up. What are you
Yep.
gonna do? Great. Thank you for being here early. I like to always be ahead of it in case there's any tech difficulties.
Yep. Me too.
So my daughter comes home tomorrow from Grenada.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah, she's home for good.
Oh, really? She's not coming
Yeah,
back.
she's not going back. She's still a
Well, that's
student of the
good.
school for the next 2 years because she'll do rotations here. But yeah,
Yeah,
she won't be living in Grenada anymore. Yay, I'm excited.
that's good.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. Other than that, it's been quiet so far this morning. How's the office?
Quiet.
Jared's gone, right? He had a thing he had to
Yeah,
do.
he left at 10.
Yeah, good. Did you see we have a team meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning?
I did not.
You're not home? I thought I added you to the, but I think it has to be Jared, actually.
Let me see. Well, I didn't check the
See,
calendar for
okay.
tomorrow yet, so.
Oh, okay, you are on there. Oh, he moved it to 8 a.m. tomorrow from, usually
I
we meet
see.
at 12, but he moved it
Yeah.
early because he's got to leave again in the morning.
Yeah. He said that he has to leave at 10 again. So I guess I'll be here at 8.
Yep, but then you can leave early.
Yeah.
There's a father-friendly initiative at noon if you want to listen to that.
Yeah, I think that was the plan.
Good, excellent. Okay. Good.
Are you going to be in office tomorrow?
In office, yes, I will be there.
Mhm.
I shall be there, and then home Wednesday. And then Thursday I will be in again.
Okay.
Yeah. My daughter has a doctor's appointment Wednesday, so she's got to take the car.
Uh,
Back to car sharing.
that's not fun.
No, it's not. It's harder than you think. I mean, I know you know probably, right?
Oh
But it's
no.
no, you
When
have
I
your own
got
car.
my license, my mom just got a new car, so I got her car.
Nice.
So I never had to share, but I would not like sharing.
It's not easy, but here's the thing with my daughter in Grenada, it was like didn't make sense to get another
Yeah,
car. So we're
no
gonna
point.
see where she goes because if she goes to like a city area for her rotations, like she won't need a car,
Yeah,
it
she'll have
depends.
public transportation.
Right. But if she's like in a suburb, then I'm gonna give her my car and get a new car. That's what I'm gonna do. But for the next couple of months, we're car sharing again till we know where she's going.
Yeah.
Because it just
Fun.
doesn't make sense to buy a fourth car at this point
Yeah.
and have it. Because my son has his own, my husband has his own, and I have my own. So it's just when my daughter comes home and it gets tricky.
Yeah.
But we'll make it work. But she's got some catch-up doctor's appointments and different things. So I'll just work from home those days that she's got that stuff. I'm so thankful we have a flexible job. It helps.
Yeah, I know. It's
It's
really
so,
nice.
isn't it nice? Yeah, it's great. It's not like this everywhere. So it's really nice to have this.
Yeah. Yep.
And anybody in the waiting room? I can't smell.
Uh,
2 people. No, it's
oh,
just
there
us.
are? I was
No,
gonna
actually, I
say.
think it's us. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, there's 2 people. No,
It should
it's
pop up at the top of the screen when someone
okay.
joins.
Okay. And I know our presenter said she'd be on by 11:55. And then all I'm gonna do is just introduce her. I have it right here. She's the director of UniteCT and of Housing Innovation through the Connecticut Department of Housing. And today she's going to present on the UniteCT program. And then I was going to say, if there's any questions, we can have folks put them in the chat and then we can
Yeah.
address them at the end. We can check with Marina how she wants to handle it. She just wants people to blurt it out, or does she want us to kind of like save them to the end? Either
Okay.
way. And then if we end up saving them, then you and I can tag team it. We can go through the list and just ask the questions and
Yeah.
sounds like a plan. Oh, and this thing is recording, right? Or it will record.
I don't know how that works.
I think Jared set them up to record.
I think they automatically
So-
record when it's a webinar,
Oh.
but I'm not sure.
Oh.
Don't quote me on that. I've never done this before.
Actually, here it says, I thought so too, but I have a button that says start recording.
I can
So you
record
know-
it. Yeah, I see that.
You want to start it or you want to wait until
Let's just wait until someone else joins
Marina?
at least.
Yeah, or at least when we get people in. I'll try to remind you. One of us will do it. Okay.
Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, usually they automatically start though. On the
I
other
don't know.
ones.
Okay.
So do we want to admit her or wait until our presenter's here? It's up to you. Oh, it's fine. We could start recording then, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Before we forget, do you want to do it or you want me to?
I got it.
Okay. Hi, Tony. Hi, Kathleen. Oh, maybe we can't hear them because maybe they're muted. I think they're muted. So
Yeah.
questions would have to come in the chat. Okay.
Well, we can unmute them. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's okay. We can leave it this way and then we can have them just type their questions in the chat. And then,
Because I know there is a way to do it.
oh yeah, if you click on
Oh, I see
highlight
it.
the
Should I
person's
allow?
name. No, let's leave it the way it is now. And then if someone wants to speak later, we can always unmute them.
Okay.
I think that'll work.
I don't know if the recording thing is working. I hit the start button like 4 times and it's not recording.
Let me try my end. Unless it's already recording through a different
I have no idea.
record and transcribe. Start recording.
That's what I hit.
I know, and I don't see anything, huh?
Yeah.
That's strange. Hmm. Maybe because it automatically records. I think it
I don't
automatically
know.
records.
Yeah, I think
The
so
others
too,
have
but
automatically recorded, so, and we didn't have to do anything, so I think we're fine. I think that's
Okay.
why it's not doing anything for us. I hope. I could text Jared. I'll text him.
I don't remember him doing anything last week when we had a webinar thing.
Right. Bye, see you next time. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to give it a few more minutes. We are waiting for a presenter who has confirmed with us this morning, so she should be hopping on in any moment now. And we did have some others signed up as well, so we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started. I'm going to give Marina a call. Hi, everyone. This is Kay Mello from United Way of Greater Waterbury. Just a quick update. We've reached out to the presenter, and she should hopefully be on in a couple of minutes. So thank you for your patience. Hello, everyone. Hi, Marina. Thanks for
Hi,
joining us.
Kay. Hey,
Hi.
everyone. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kay Mello. I'm Director of Community Impact at United Way of Greater Waterbury. And I'm sitting in today for Jared Lucis, who unfortunately sends his regrets for not being able to make it. However, we have a fabulous presentation for you today. We're very excited. I'm also joined by Elena Roberts, our Community Impact Intern at United Way. Elena, if you just want to, there you are, wave a quick hello. Elena's
Hi.
with us for the summer and helped us to help organizing this for technical help today. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Elena. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marina. Marina is the Director of UniteCT and Housing Innovation at the Connecticut Department of Housing. And today she's going to present on the UniteCT program and maybe some other things as well. So Marina, just wanted to check in with you. Do you prefer to hold questions until the end? We can
No.
have folks just shout them out
Yeah.
as they put them in the
Yeah.
chat, we can say, because I don't think everybody has capability to speak, although we can give you speaking permission if there's something you'd like to discuss, but we'll just invite you to put those questions in the chat, and Elena and I will keep an eye on that for you, Marina, and let you
Cool.
know. So yes, so I'm hoping you can go ahead and share your presentation. If not,
Yeah, totally.
we will assist you with that.
Okay, cool. And hey, everyone, it looks like a small group, which I honestly kind of love. So, interrupt me, throw your questions in the chat. I'm a huge proponent that everyone processes information at different times. So, if you need me to slow down, go back, say it in a different way, I want you all to leave here with a pretty strong understanding of all the money that Department of Housing has to offer clients who need rental support. So, without further ado, I can definitely make sure that you all have this presentation after. But it's basically a very high overview of our UniteCT department at DOH. So, in your mind, UniteCT might be a name that you recognize from the past. We've been around since the early pandemic. So in 2021, the Department of Treasury gave the state of Connecticut and all states a lot of money to help tenants who were struggling through the pandemic. So these three programs are run through kind of like the leftover money of our previous UniteCT fund. With that being said, in your mind, think of three programs under the UniteCT department when you hear the word UniteCT. So, what that means is the first one is called our Eviction Prevention Fund, and I'll go into more details. But it provides back rent for tenants who are getting evicted so they can stay in their unit, stay with their landlord, wipe their arrears, or at least try and wipe a lot of them, and basically stop the eviction. The second program we have is the UniteCT Moving Assistance Program, or MAP for short. That provides security deposits to a couple different eligible folks, different populations. And then the third program we have is the UniteCT Workforce Rental Assistance Program. That program is providing 3 months of forward rent if you are registered for some sort of workforce training program in Connecticut. So let's see, I'm getting my CNA license and I need help paying my rent. I can apply to this third program and get 3 months of forward rent at a time. So this presentation, I'll go into all three of the programs in more detail, but this is basically what I just said, right? Eviction prevention has a maximum payment of $8,500 or 15 months of assistance for the clients who get support through that program. The moving assistance program, the cap is not a money cap, but it's a cap on 2 months worth of rent within the security deposit. So to break it down, let's say my rent's $1,500, right? Then the most I could receive from the moving assistance program is $3,000, right? $1,500 times 2, $3,000. So rents vary across the state, and we want to be cognizant of that. So rents in Fairfield County might be more, maybe $2,500. So then the most you can get would be $5,000 from MAP. And then the third workforce program, we talked about it, right? 3 months of future rent at a time. I want to get some language out of the way so you all feel comfortable moving forward of kind of like what the heck is Marina saying. But basically, all tenants for all 3 of our UniteCT programs will be paired with what's called a tenant representative. A tenant rep, right, is a UniteCT staff member. Maybe they exist across the state. So we partner with these like nonprofit housing support agencies, and they have UniteCT staff within their organization. So I call into our call center, right? I want to apply to one of these programs. We will always, always, always partner that tenant with a staff member of UniteCT, a tenant rep, to help them fill out the application. That matters because tenants are not applying directly on their own. And I want to like really emphasize that because that was not the case in previous iterations of UniteCT. So everyone gets a buddy. They're called the tenant rep. Another eligibility program across the 3 UniteCT programs is that all the households who apply, all the tenants who apply, they got to be under 80% AMI. AMI stands for area median income. And if you want to learn more about like, how do I know my AMI based off of where I live, I can let you know. All applicants, they gotta have a landlord who is willing to work with them and with our program. All the checks, this is the last bullet points, all our checks, we mail them to landlords. So we don't actually issue any checks to tenants. That means, right, at some point, we got to make contact with the landlord. We got to make sure that they own the unit that the tenant lives in. We got to, get their W-9 so we can pay out the check to the address that's listed on there, things like that. So in your mind, when you're thinking about UniteCT, yes, we are very like tenant focused, but that tenant always has to come with a landlord who's willing to work with them and with us. And then lastly, I'll have this number kind of scattered throughout the presentation, but we have a call center. So for any questions that you have now, later, call them up and they're happy to answer them. Okay. I'm gonna make sure the chat's good. Okay, you all can, I'm gonna check the chat every couple of slides, so feel free to throw stuff in there. So let's talk. First program about the Eviction Prevention Fund. So, oh, backwards. Okay, overview. We talked about the AMI piece, so you all should feel comfortable with that. The second bullet is that in order to get, up to $8,500, I have to have what's called a summons filed in the court system that represents, yeah, I'm going through an eviction. That summons is really important, you all, because I had to learn all about the eviction process when we first launched this program. And one of my misunderstandings was, okay, a tenant is experiencing an eviction when they get a notice to quit, but that's not always the case. So without kind of getting too into it, there's many different things that a landlord can issue to a tenant signaling that they want them out, right? Maybe it's called a notice to quit, maybe it's called something else, but the official document that we need for this program is called a summons, okay? So it's public record. You can go onto the Superior Court, look up and look up whoever is going through an eviction, you'll be able to find their summons. That's what we do, and that's the starting point to get this money. And then again, up to $8,500 or 15 months of assistance. This might be a little like weird to you all or kind of confusing because you're like, huh, $8,500, okay, it's an amount, but 15 months of rent, like that's a lot. And this is really capped because sometimes tenants have a voucher, they have a subsidy, and maybe their monthly rent is like $100, right? So if it was $100, 15 months of that would be $1,500, and they would max out at $1,500 before the 8,500. Happy to do any sort of like math. I can like share my screen and we can like write out some examples, but that's the biggest piece is whichever cap they hit first, that's where they're going to stop. So whether they hit the 8,500 first or the 15 months first. And then to apply, they just got to call our call center and they'll set them up with the tenant rep, right? Who we now know is the person who works with the tenant to help them fill out their application. In a little bit more detail, here are the steps. Less than 10 steps. Tenant calls a call center, right? The staff is going to check. They're going to look up on the public record, right, to make sure the tenant has a summons. Once we find the tenant summons, the call center staff, we use Calendly. It's like a appointment software generator. They're going to ask the tenant, hey, you want to go in person to meet with your tenant rep, or do you just want to talk to them over the phone? Both are totally fine. There's no preference, whatever the tenant wants, right? So let's say the tenant wants to meet with their tenant rep on Wednesday at 10 a.m. So we schedule them an appointment. It's going to be a phone call appointment, and tenant rep calls them, fills out their application. Once the application's in our system, we assign it to an underwriter, a supervisor. So they start reviewing the case, and this is unique. So the supervisor, their first step, once they've kind of looked at all the documents the tenant submitted, ID, their summons, right? They're going to issue the tenant what's called on step 5 a pre-qualification letter. This is important for you all to know, and this is actually what a pre-qual letter looks like. It's right here. So you'll have kind of the tenant's information up here, and it tells you, right, you are eligible for $8,500. Maybe the tenant got a lot of UniteCT assistance in the past, so they're not eligible for the full $8,500. Whatever the case may be, the tenant's pre-qual letter will tell them exactly how much money their ceiling is, right, their cap. This is kind of like the golden ticket, right? Tenant applies, they got met with their tenant rep, they got emailed their pre-qual letter, the landlord gets this email as well, and now it's time for court, right? And in eviction court, the everyone has to meet with a mediator. So let's go back. So once both parties know how much money is available for this tenant, let's say the landlord says, "Yep, I want to participate." They go to court, or maybe even before court, and we have to see on paper that the landlord is willing to participate and how much the tenant owes in arrears. So in step 8, we call this either, it's an agreement, a stipulated agreement, a mediated agreement. High level for what you all to know is that our team, our supervisors who underwrite the case, we're issuing the pre-qual letter, and then we gotta, the landlord needs to want to participate. They send a signed agreement back to us that says, yep, my tenant owes $6,000. I see that my pre-qual letter has $8,500 left. So my tenant owes me $6K. I want the $6K from this program. We review the agreement, we process the case, pay the landlord the $6,000. The biggest point of confusion with this pre-qual letter is that this money isn't owed to the tenant, right? In the example I mentioned, the tenant owed $6,000. So that's how much we are going to pay. We're not going to pay the full $8,500. This is just the ceiling. So sometimes landlords might be confused or upset, thinking that they want this whole thing, but tenant doesn't owe it. We're not going to pay it. We're just going to pay up to what they owe. Patrick, you have a question. So if a tenant is able to use the service, granted immediate aid is critical, but does it kind of stay with them in the future so a landlord can see they had an eviction issue? Great question. And I'm happy to answer any sort of nitty-gritty eviction questions. The eviction stays on the tenant's record for a certain amount of time. I should probably know how long that is, but I can't remember. And after that certain amount of time, you can kind of like apply to get your eviction wiped off your record. But high level, yep, it's on their record. It's tougher for them to rent, right, and to find a new unit. And that's why the whole goal of our program is like, let's just keep the tenant in their unit, right? Let's pay the money they owe their landlord up to the amount on their pre-qual letter and keep the tenant in their spot. So if a landlord accepts this money, let's say it's June now, right? They can't accept this money and then immediately evict their tenant. Maybe down the road, the tenant might fall behind again and something else happens. Sure, the landlord might evict then, but up to the point UniteCT comes into play, we say, hey, landlord, like you can't evict. This tenant has like their arrears cleaned, and we got to keep them in the unit. But maybe the next month or the following month, something else happens. That's kind of out of our control. We caught the tenant up to as much as we could. A common question for this is, I think, my last slide. Yeah, a common question that I receive for the eviction prevention fund is, can a tenant receive the money twice? The answer is no. You get it once, one-time shot, and after that, the tenant has to access other resources if they do fall behind and are evicted, or the landlord restarts their eviction, I should say. Because with this program, we make the landlord stop the eviction. That's the goal. Anyone else? That's 1 out of the 3 programs done. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Now let's talk about MAP, Moving Assistance Program, and that is what we offer for security deposits. So security deposits up to 2 months. I want to really point out this second bullet point to you all. We are following the landlord's lead. Okay, so when we ask for some of the required documents from the landlord side, we ask them for a lease, right? If that lease, let's go back to my like $1,500 a month rent example. Let's say the landlord put security deposit for Marina is $1,500, right? They turn in this lease and they think, oh, this program provides 2 months of security deposit. I'm going to get $3,000. That's not the case, right? We're looking at the lease. We're looking at what they've said the rent or the security deposit amount is, and we're going to pay that. So if they're telling us the security deposit is $1,500 and that's 1 month worth of rent, that's what we're going to pay. We're not always going to pay the 2 months, and that sometimes is confusing for landlords. So with the clients that you're working with, just be careful that the lease that you submit, that's the security deposit we're going to go with. Unless the landlord is trying to get away with something where they, let's say for the $1,500 rent, let's say they put like a $5,000 security deposit. We'll push that back and say, no, actually in the state of Connecticut, legally, you could only go up to 2 months worth of rent in your security deposit. So like this lease isn't even valid. Go back, redo the lease, right? If the rent's $1,500, the most you can put is $3,000 on this lease. So we have some of those. And I think it's important for you all to know, just for you to be able to advocate for your clients. And if you work with any older adults, I didn't put it in the slide, but it's important for you to know. If your client is over 62 years old, in Connecticut, the landlord can only charge them 1 month of rent. So that's what we do too. For all of our 62 plus tenants who come in, we're making sure that their lease only has 1 month worth of rent. Okay. This thing here, I'm going to go over it briefly, this contract rent piece. So some of you might have tenants who have Section 8 or who have some sort of subsidy. So if their rent is $1,000 and they only have to pay $100 of it, we are going to look at the larger amount, the $1,000 contract rent, and say, okay, through this program, you can get $2,000 of security deposit. And I think that's important to note because, if this tenant is only paying $100 of rent, we're not going to say, sorry, you can only get $200 of security deposit through UniteCT. We go with the higher full rent. And just like a little aside, this program's like pretty radical because tenants who have vouchers don't have a lot of opportunities to get security deposit assistance. The assumption is that they always just pay for it on their own. And when you have Section 8 or if you have some sort of voucher, you are qualified for a really low rent because your income's lower, right? And so how are you going to be able to fork up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in security deposit? It's tougher, right? So this program is really helping out tenants who have some sort of voucher. Patrick, so can someone hold off to pay the maximum? So instead of 6,500 they can wait until the 8,500 if the landlord is on board. Kind of. I mean, that's kind of gaming the system, and some people are doing it. I would recommend, hey, this thing is happening to you. Let's get it cleared so you can have a fresh start. So we as like administrators and people who overview the program, we can't really know for a fact if a tenant and landlord are waiting to get assistance. So we just kind of have to treat each case at face value, if that makes sense. That's for the Eviction Prevention Fund, you all. No problem, Patrick. Thanks for being so engaging. Last point here, you all. good for you to know that the moving assistance program, right, security deposit can only be paid once for a tenant. So tenant goes, they get this money. Let's say they got $3,000 from us and they move and they want to apply again. That can't happen. The good thing is that this security deposit, although it comes from us, DOH, it kind of belongs to the tenant. Not kind of, it definitely belongs to the tenant. So we pay the landlord the security deposit, and maybe in a year from now, right, the lease is up and the tenant is moving. If the tenant, didn't have damages to the unit or didn't do something that would require the landlord to keep the security deposit, the landlord gives the tenant back the security deposit, just like a regular security deposit. So I think that's kind of cool. DOH, right, doesn't want it back. It's between the tenant and landlord now to figure that out. Cool. So let's talk about who's eligible. You're gonna get these slides. I want this to be high level. But there's 4 different groups of renters in Connecticut who can get security deposit. So it's not everyone, but it's a lot of people. So population 1 is if the tenant was just evicted, they can get security deposit. Usually this happens when a tenant really wants to apply for the eviction prevention fund. They apply, they're ready to go. They even have a pre-qual letter sometimes. And the landlord looks at them, looks at us, and is like, nope, I don't want to participate in the UniteCT eviction prevention fund. I want this tenant out. I'm moving forward with the eviction. So a lot of those tenants, we offer the resource of this moving assistance program to say, hey, not all is lost. Although your landlord didn't want to work with us in one way, you can find a new landlord, right? And you can get security deposit for your new landlord. Another group of people who can get security deposit is folks who have a voucher. Another group of people are folks who are experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. And then lastly, maybe, right, because I know HUD has this definition of homelessness and the cans use that as well, which a big one is if a tenant is physically homeless now or will be homeless within the next 14 days, then they can receive these CAN services. But maybe a tenant is going to be homeless in a month from now or 2 months from now. For those tenants, they wouldn't necessarily be housing insecure on how Connecticut defines it or the cans define it. So that's why we've opened up a 4th population. So an overview is that tenants who are low income, so 50% AMI or below, and I'm flagging, right? This is different because all UniteCT participants have to be under 80% AMI. And so for this subcategory, right, if they're under 50%, they can get security deposit. Patrick, I don't know what 50% AMI for Waterbury is off the top of my head, but I'll share my screen. Oh, thanks, Kay. I can also send you all this document of AMIs across the state, so you can have it. And Kay's mentioned probably for a household of 1, but it'll go up if there's more individuals in the household, including kids. So I'm actually not going to go into all this. You can read this later. But this basically just shows you step by step what has to happen for a tenant that is a part of one of those 4 populations to get security deposit. And I think the folks, Kay or Elena, correct me if I'm wrong, but the folks on this call, y'all are mostly probably population 3 or work with population 3 or 4, maybe all of them. So I'll briefly discuss this. If a tenant is experiencing homelessness, right, they call 211. We have been working with 211 because at 211, they will refer the client to a hub. And so these hubs, they know about our program and they're able to either fill out the application for the tenant themselves to get security deposit, or we give them a referral to a tenant rep, and then the tenant rep fills out the application for the client that went to a hub, right, who called 211. So that's this route. If you have a client who's under 50% AMI, don't call 211 because you're not homeless or housing insecure just yet, right? You should call our call center, and our call center will be able to check your AMI, make sure everything's good to go, They'll set you up with a tenant rep, fill out your application, we'll get your landlord's documents, and we'll pay out the security deposit. I don't have a slide for this, you all, but if a tenant does not have a landlord, but they're looking and they're in one of these categories, right? Let's just say, for an example, they're low income. So maybe an individual earns 30K and I'm trying to find a new landlord. You could still call our call center and they will put you into this like software. It's called Matrix, and that software is free for the tenant. They can apply to units vacancies right on Matrix, and they can actually get accepted to a unit on Matrix. So the cool thing from a tenant's perspective is that they don't have to pay an application fee. They can get free access to Matrix by calling our call center, as long as they're within one of these 4 populations. Cool. So that's if a tenant does not have a landlord. If they have a landlord, they're ready to go, they want security deposit, then follow one of these steps, right? All of these really start by calling our call center, except for the housing insecure homeless one, they should call 211 first and then get connected to a hub. Cool. These are the required documents. They're honestly like pretty straightforward. If you were evicted, we make sure that you were evicted by looking up one of these 3 things in the judicial record. So tenant doesn't need to have it. This is public record. We need your ID. Tell us who your landlord is. So across all 4 of these, we have what's called a landlord verification form. Long story short, we just got to know who's your landlord. Give me the name, email address, phone number so that we can contact them, right? And then maybe income documents, depending on the household. So right, evicted, this is public record. We need their ID. Tell us who your landlord is. We may or may not ask for income. If they have a voucher, we need to have proof that your unit passed the inspection. Give us your ID and then fill out our form that tells us who your landlord is. If someone's homeless or housing insecure and they're going to a hub, we ask that one of the staff members at the hub fill out a homeless verification form. So just proving and verifying that the tenant is actually homeless. We ask for their ID, and the reason why this is kind of long is because there's an exception here. We recognize that folks who are housing insecure, experiencing homelessness, they might not have an ID, and they might not have something that has a photo of them, but they have some sort of identification. So we allow for this group of individuals, maybe it's not a driver's license or ID, maybe it's a birth certificate or a social security card or something that was issued by a government entity that has the client's name on it. Doesn't need a photo. And then again, tell us who your landlord is. And then if they're under 50% AMI, we ask them for income documents in the household, ID, and then tell us who your landlord is. So a couple of documents, nothing too strenuous, all in order to get that security deposit. Oh. Help. Oh, okay, cool. We're at 2 out of the 3, you all. Doing good. Any questions? Cool. I'll move on. Last but not least, this may feel like a lot. Don't worry. We'll get through it. This is the Workforce Rental Assistance Program. So a tenant is registered. Maybe they're not attending yet. Maybe their first day of their training program hasn't started yet, but they're registered. At that time, they can apply to get some rental help through us. We talked about that the income has to be under 80% AMI, and the training program. This is where it gets a little specific. The training program has to be, something in Connecticut that maybe it's hosted by a state agency, Department of Labor, American Job Center, WIOA. There's a bunch, right? These Workforce Investment Board, WIBs, the Workplace is one of them. There's so many, right? They're hosting these training programs. Those are the ones that we're talking about. And the training has to be at least 4 weeks. So it can't be one of those like I did a training for a day or 2. It has to be somewhat substantial. So if a client is in one of those training programs, training program offers like a license or a certificate or something at the end, then they're good. They qualify for our program. They can get 3 months of rental assistance. When I talk about training programs, the ones that are not included are courses like classes that people take at universities or community colleges, high schools, any of that. Anything for academic credit, that's not in our eyes for this program considered workforce development and doesn't count. The community colleges across Connecticut, they do offer like workforce training. That counts. That's fine. It's just these academic classes like psychology 101, right? That's not eligible. But if I wanted to take, I think there's like CNA opportunities and others within the community colleges, that's fine because that's workforce development. And then there's some, you know, the LinkedIn learnings, there's this metrics, Coursera, any sort of like online courses that people can take, those don't count. Got to be in person. And maybe you have some online components, but it's really like these LinkedIn learning stuff that those don't count. Okay. How do you apply, right? Go to our website. I have the websites at the end of this presentation. This is a screenshot, but this is what the button looks like, you all, on our workforce website, rental assistance website. Click on that, and it's going to ask the tenant for two things. It's going to ask them for ID and some sort of proof that they're registered for a training program. So they submit their documents. They're good to go, right? We then email the landlord, hey, landlord, your tenant just started an application with us. We need some of your documents. Landlord submits their documents. And the final step for this workforce rental assistance program is that the tenant will meet with their tenant rep to get the rest of their application done. So for kind of high level, right? We talked about the eviction prevention fund. We talked about the moving assistance program. Those two programs primarily start with a tenant calling our call center. Alternatively, for this third program, the workforce rental assistance program, tenants should go to our website, click on this button, and that's how they're going to start the application. We'll get them a tenant rep eventually, but the starting point's a little different. I just wanted to point that out. Cool. And this is a visual of like how many months are available for clients. So we are only paying 3 months of rent at a time. So maybe my training program is 8 weeks or 5 weeks or 30 weeks. Regardless, if it's more than 4, it meets that criteria, we're going to pay the tenant 3 months of rent. Okay. If the tenant, after their 3rd month, is still attending their course, has not graduated, we can verify with their instructor that they're still in the course and they're not done yet, they can recertify. And when a tenant recertifies, they get an additional 3 months of rent. We've seen folks recertify like a couple of times because their training programs are really long, and that's okay. So that's it. That's the visual of the rent assistance available for the workforce rental assistance program. The money flows the same way, right? We work with the landlord, send them the check, and all of that. So any questions on that third program?
I see Patrick is typing something.
Take your time, Patrick. My last slide here. Okay, I'll read it right now. This is my last slide. It's all the websites for the 3 programs and then our call center. And that's it. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Awesome. Patrick says, I believe Kay or Jared sent out a 1-page sheet about this program a few months ago, which I forwarded to our school families as an FYI. Is there a similar 1-page I can resend as a reminder or for those who may be in such circumstance?
Totally. These websites links all have flyers in English and Spanish for the 3 programs. So go to the websites and you'll find them. You all are kind of getting like the new and updated presentation because as of today, Monday, we opened up the moving assistance program to that population 4, right? Folks who are less than 50% AMI. So our website should be updated by the end of the day with new flyers and all that. So maybe go back tomorrow for a map to get that flyer. But everything else is good.
So this was hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Yeah, y'all are lucky.
Some Okay, and then Patrick says, thank you, that moving assistance is good to share as well.
Good.
Awesome. Any other questions from folks? Anything else, Marina, you'd like to share before we wrap up? That was pretty impressive. That was a lot of information. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I said it at the top of the meeting, but people process right in different ways. So if this felt like a little overwhelming, you can call the call center first. But if you still have questions, I'm putting my email in the chat. You can email me, and I'm happy to answer those.
Awesome. Great. And then if you'd like to share this presentation with us, we're happy to get that out to the people that were on this call. And I think there were others that registered as well, so they couldn't
Cool.
attend, so we can get that out to the group, as well as we'll include your email in that as well when we send that out.
Cool.
This way, folks, if you don't have a chance to grab that from the chat, but it is there in the chat for you right now. But if you don't have a chance before we say goodbye, we will make sure we get that to you. Thank you. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Marina. Really appreciate it. Thanks all for being on, and Elena for your assistance with the tech stuff. Always appreciate that.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks
Nice to see you.
again. Have
Bye,
a great
Kay.
rest of the day and week. Bye. Bye, everybody.